Greetings, fellow citizens of the vast Obsidian community. Welcome to another video in the Obsidian for Noobs video series, featuring tutorials, tips, and tools for new users of the Obsidian personal knowledge management software. Today's video will be a tutorial that covers how to create and use callouts in Obsidian. Specifically, this video will cover the following. What is a callout? The various types of callouts offered by Obsidian. The three parts of a callout. How to create callouts, foldable or collapsible callouts, how to edit callouts, how to create custom callouts, and an exploration of some of the possible use cases for callouts. What is a callout? An Obsidian callout is a specially formatted block in a note that visually highlights content by employing a colored box, an identifying icon, and an optional title. Callouts are typically incorporated into a note interspersed with the note's text. Callouts stand out due to their color and identifying icon, thus allowing readers to quickly spot important or supplemental information. Callouts in Obsidian can contain a variety of content, including text, links, images, and PDFs. They function like a block quote, but they are much more decorative and eye-catching. Also, markdown formatting can be used in a callout. There are a wide variety of callout types built into Obsidian, each intended for a different purpose, and each with its own color and identifying icon. Okay, I'm on the Obsidian Help website, and we're in the callouts section, and here's a listing showing examples of the various types of callouts. I believe there are 13 in total. These are built-in callout types offered by Obsidian. Each one, as I mentioned, has its own color and its own assigned icon. And the words you see here are the type identifiers. So that there's an abstract type. The icon looks like a clipboard. An info type. The icon's an eye and a circle. A tip, success, question, warning, failure, danger, bug, example, quote. And there's also one called note. Note is the default one when you first create a callout in Obsidian. Right, so these are the built-in types of callouts offered by Obsidian. I believe, again, there are 13 in total. This is the complete list of built-in callouts offered by Obsidian. Again, these words are the type identifiers or the type, note, abstract, info, to do, and so forth. And again, remember, each one has its own color assigned to it and its own unique icon identifying it. Okay, the three parts of a callout. Regardless of the type of callout you choose to use, every callout is structured similarly and is composed of three parts: a type identifier, or simply type, a title, and content. In the example on screen, in the center here, you see the markdown code for a callout. The type identifier is in the brackets, and it's preceded by an exclamation symbol. So this is one of the 13 types. We could have tip, we could have warning, we could have info, anything from that list I just showed you. This is the title. The title is chosen by you, the user. And this is the content, again, chosen by you, the user. This example here, this markdown, would be rendered as you see at the bottom here. Notice the blue color. That happens to be the color for the note type, and the pen or pencil symbol, which is the icon for the note type. Remember, each different type of callout has its own color and its own icon. Let me talk about the three parts of the callout in detail. The type identifier, as its name implies, identifies the type of callout that will be created, meaning its color and identifying icon, as illustrated in the list of callout types that I covered earlier. These callout types are predefined by Obsidian, but it is possible to create your own custom callout type using CSS, and I'll cover that later in this video. The title is chosen by you, the user. The title is optional. If you leave it out, then Obsidian will use the callout type identifier as the title. In other words, tip, warning, info, note, and so forth. Finally, the content. This is also chosen by you, the user. The content is usually text, a single line or multiple lines, but it can also be links, images, PDFs, and so forth. Basically, anything you can put in a note can be put as content in a callout. How do we create callouts in Obsidian? Well, as with most things in Obsidian, there are several ways to create a callout. You can create it manually using Markdown. You can create it using the command palette, or you can create one using a Notes right-click menu. Let me explain and demonstrate each of these now. First, creating a callout manually using Markdown. The process is as follows. First, type a greater than symbol followed by a space. Then type an open brackets followed by an exclamation mark. And then put your type identifier, in other words, tip, info, warning, note, and so forth, followed by a closing bracket. Then type a space and your desired title. Once you've typed the title, press the Enter key. This brings you down to the content section, and you can begin typing your line or lines of content. Just continually follow that procedure. Type a line of content, press the Enter key, type another line of content, and continue on. When you're finished with your content and you want to exit the callout, press the Enter key twice. Let me demonstrate that now in a vault. I'm in my test vault, and I'm going to begin creating a callout manually using Markdown. The first thing I do is type a greater than symbol and a space, then an open bracket, an exclamation symbol, and the type identifier I want to use. In this case, I'll use tip. I close the bracket, type another space, and then whatever title I want to give the callout. The title is up to the user. Okay, so I've identified the type identifier, in this case tip. In other words, the type of callout I want this to be, and I've given a title to the callout. When I now press the Enter key, it'll bring me down to the content portion, and I can begin typing my content. Notice that Obsidian automatically puts the greater than symbol in for the lines of content. Everything in a callout every line in a callout begins with a greater than symbol. When you're creating one manually using Markdown, as I'm doing here, you type that first greater than symbol for that very first line, which has the type identifier in the title. Once you start pressing the Enter key, Obsidian puts in the greater than symbols for the remainder of the lines for your content. In other words, it knows this is a callout now, and it goes ahead and just puts in that greater than symbol. So you can simply type your content, which I'll do now. If you have multiple lines of content, just keep pressing the Enter key and typing the new content. You see we get the greater than symbol again. So I've created a tip callout type with the title Parts of a Callout, and it has 3 lines of content, which are the 3 parts of a callout: type identifier, title, and content. I'm ready to exit the callout now. So I press the Enter key twice. When you want to leave the callout, when you're finished, press the Enter key twice. And the callout is rendered. So this is what the callout looks like. The tip callout is a greenish color, and it has this icon, which I'm not sure what that is, maybe a flame. But notice that the title is whatever title I put. The user creates the title, the user creates the content. And that's how the callout appears. That's the Markdown. Type identifier, in brackets preceded by an exclamation symbol, a space, the title you choose, and then press Enter and keep entering lines of content. When you're ready to exit the callout, press Enter twice. And that's what it looks like. As I said in the beginning, it's very eye-catching. This is a very visual feature in Obsidian, in stark contrast to the otherwise bland kind of black and white coloring that everything else has. Okay, let me show you some things we can do in here. I mentioned at the beginning that you can use Markdown in a callout. So let's make title bold. It rendered that markdown for bold, the double asterisk, and the word title is now bold. If I go back into the callout and I reduce this to single asterisk, we'll get italic. So you can use markdown within the content of your callouts. Let's get rid of that. I can make this a bullet list if I want to. I highlight it. In this case, I'm going to use the right-click menu, and I'm going to select Paragraph and Bullet List. And now the content of this callout is presented as a bullet list. Let me add another line of content and create a link. Double brackets. Let's see. This is an image in my vault. You recognize the link format, purple color underlined. If I click it, it'll bring me to that image. So you can put links within callouts as well as using markdown. Another thing you can do is embed content in a callout. You probably know that to embed an image in a note, you precede the link to that image with an exclamation symbol. So if I do that here now, I will have embedded this image in the callout, which means the actual image will appear within the callout. There you see it. Here's the callout, and now the image is in there. I've embedded that image in the callout. So as I mentioned at the beginning, virtually anything you could put in a note can also be placed in a callout. So here's another example of a callout in Markdown. Again, it's the tip type of callout. Now the title I put is How to Create an Obsidian Callout. That's the title that would appear. And as my content, I have these 3 lines of text, which are the 3 ways you can create a callout. Okay, so that's the first way to create a callout, using Markdown. In other words, manually. The second way to create a callout is to use the command palette. Press the Control and P keys on your keyboard to call up the command palette. Type the word callout in the search window, and then select Insert Callout. Obsidian will then insert a note type callout structure at the cursor. In other words, what you see on screen here. The exclamation mark and the note type identifier in the brackets. And again, it puts the word title in the word contents, but you put any title and any content you want. And as I say here, change the callout type and add a title and contents as desired. So by default, Obsidian always places a note type of callout in your note when you use the command palette. And it'll put the word title where the title goes, and it'll put the word content where the content goes. You can then change any or all of these if you want to. So if you'd rather a tip type or a warning type, just change that word and put in whatever title you want and whatever content you want. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to call up the command palette with Control P. Insert Callout happens to be at the top because I was practicing this before I made the video. But normally it wouldn't be. This is alphabetical, so this would be down with the I's. You just type callout up here to find it quickly. And it'll call up anything that corresponds to your search term. And the one we want is Insert Callout. When I click this, Obsidian will insert a note type callout with a note type identifier and the word title where the title goes and the word content where the content goes. And then we're free to change this as we see fit. So if I let it render this, that's the note type. It's blue, it's got the pencil. If that's not what I wanted, in place of note, I'll put warning. In place of title, whatever I want. And in place of content. And now we get a completely different callout. So again, Obsidian by default puts in a note callout type with title where the title goes and contents where the content goes. And then you go ahead and change that as you see fit. What's nice too, let's do this again. When it inserts the callout, the type identifier is highlighted. In other words, it's already ready and waiting for you to put in whatever type you want. If you want note, you can just hit an arrow key or move the, click off somewhere to the side. But if you want a different one, like info, you can just type whatever you want. And notice it did not have to be a capital. I did that in lowercase, the word info, and it worked fine. And that's the info callout type. It's blue with the I in a circle. So that's how you create a callout using the command palette. And finally, we have creating a callout using a Notes right-click menu. I've discussed the Notes right-click menu in several of my videos. I had one of my early videos was exclusively devoted to this. I think this is the single most important, powerful feature in Obsidian is that right-click menu. You can do so many things from that menu very easily and very quickly. I'm thinking of making another video about that, an updated video, because it's just so important. I think I use the right-click menu more than any other single thing in Obsidian. Well, anyway, one of the many, many things you can create with the right-click menu is a callout. So the way to do it is right-click in a blank region of a note. From the Insert submenu, select Callout. Obsidian will then insert a note callout type at the cursor. In other words, just as it did with the command palette. It always uses the note type as the default. And then again, as we saw before, you go ahead and change that type if you want to change it and add whatever title and content you desire. Let's take a look at this in the vault. Okay, back in the vault. Right-click in the note. That's the Notes right-click menu. We can add links. We can do a bunch of formatting, paragraph styles, and we can insert things. What we want is the Insert submenu, and from that, we want Callout. When I click this, Obsidian will insert the exact same type of callout that it did when I used the command palette. In other words, a note type with the word title where the title goes and the word contents where the contents go. And also, it gives me this with the type identifier highlighted so that if I want to, I can immediately change it to something else. I'll change it from note to tip. And if I want to, I can change the title and contents as well. So again, right-click, go to the Insert menu, the Insert submenu, and select Callout. And Obsidian inserts the callout for you. So to review the three methods, you can create it using Markdown, greater than symbol, space, open bracket, exclamation point, type identifier, go past the bracket, space, whatever title you want, press the Enter key, whatever content you want, Enter key twice to get out of it. That's manual. Command palette, Control P, select Insert Callout, and you'll get your callout, make whatever changes you want. Finally, right-click menu, right-click, select the Insert submenu, and select Callout. And again, you get the note callout, and you make whatever changes you want. Those are the three ways to create a callout in Obsidian. How to create foldable or collapsible callouts. A very handy feature of callouts is that they can be made foldable, meaning that the callout's content is folded out of sight until the user expands it, at which time the callout will unfold and reveal its contents. This is accomplished by placing either a minus sign or a plus sign immediately after the closing bracket of the note type. If you put a minus sign there, then the callout is collapsed or folded by default. If you put a plus sign there, then the callout is expanded or unfolded by default. Regardless of which state it's in, meaning folded or unfolded, simply click on the title to put it into the other state. So if it's in the folded state and you want to open it up, click the title. If it's open and you want to fold it, click the title. Let me demonstrate that now. Okay, I'm back in the vault. Let's adjust this one. that's the typical callout as we've seen. To make it foldable or collapsible, I put either a minus sign or a plus sign immediately after the closing brackets that surround the type identifier. If I put a minus symbol there, then the callout is folded in its default state. And I have to click on it to open it up or unfold it. If I put a plus sign there, then it's open in its default state, and I have to click on it to close it. So let me start with the minus sign. I'll put a minus sign right after that bracket there. When I click out, now the callout is folded. Notice the appearance of this symbol, right? We did not see this in these other callouts that do not have a collapsible state. If it's pointing to the right, like a greater than symbol, it means the callout is folded. If I click on it or anywhere on the title, it'll open it up, and it rotates so that it looks like a V, meaning it's open. If I want to fold it up again, I just click on the title. Now let me copy all that and reproduce that callout here. And I'm going to change the minus sign to a plus sign. Notice now that the callout in its default state is open. Right, as soon as I clicked out of it, it was in its open state. To close it, I simply click on it. So opening and closing works the same way. You click on the title. The difference again is what the basic state or default state of the callout is. If you put a minus sign after that closing bracket, it's closed by default. That's this one. And if you put a plus sign there, it's open by default, which is this. So the idea is, how do you want the callout to appear when someone goes to the note where the callout is? Right? As soon as they go to that note, what state do you want that callout to be in? Do you want it open so they can see what's in it? Or do you want it closed so that it takes up less space and it's more efficient? And again, that depends on your use case. But you have the option to go either way with that. So here down at the bottom, you see the markdown for another callout. Notice the minus sign, in case it wasn't clear in the vault. Right? We have the normal structure. No matter how you create a callout, whether you do it manually with Markdown or with the command palette or with the right-click menu, you always have the greater than symbol, the space, and then within the brackets, exclamation mark, and the type identifier. But for collapsible callouts, right after that closing bracket, no space, right after it, you put either a minus sign or a plus sign. The minus sign makes that callout's default state be collapsed. The plus sign makes its default state be open. Okay, how do we edit callouts? As mentioned previously, you can change a callout's type identifier, title, and/or content to suit your needs. In order to make such changes, you must edit the callout's markdown syntax. If the callout is in its rendered state, you will have to reveal the callout's markdown code in order to make the needed changes. You can reveal a callout's markdown coding by doing any one of the following. You can click anywhere on the callout content other than the title. Or you can move the mouse cursor onto the callout using the keyboard arrow keys. Or you can click the symbol in the callout's upper right corner. It's a less than symbol, a slash, and a greater than symbol. That symbol only appears if you hover your mouse pointer over the callout. So that's what the symbol looks like. You'll see it in the upper right corner, and I'm going to demonstrate this now. Right? So doing any one of these will reveal the markdown code for the callout. Once you have that markdown code revealed, you can edit the callout however you wish. In other words, you can change its type identifier, you can change the title, you can change the content. Let's take a look at that. If I want to change something in this callout, I need to reveal the markdown. This is the callout in its rendered state. I need to get to that markdown code in order to make changes. So I can click anywhere in the callout other than the title. That reveals the markdown. Then I click in there and I make whatever change I want. So if I want to change the type identifier to info, I can do it like that. Now I have that type of callout with its own color and its own icon. Likewise, if I want to change the content, I can make changes here if I want to change the title. So that's one way to reveal the markdown so you can edit the callout. Just click anywhere in the callout other than the title. Because remember, the title will collapse it and uncollapse it. Second method is move the cursor into the callout using the arrow keys on your keyboard. That opens up the markdown and you can make whatever changes you like. Finally, if you hover over the callout, you see that symbol appear that I mentioned before in the right corner. It's not visible normally, but if I just put the mouse cursor over it, I'm not clicking or anything, I just hover it over it, that appears. And if I click on that symbol, I get the markdown. So in summary, to edit a callout, you have to reveal the markdown code. There's 3 ways you can do it. You can click anywhere in the callout other than the title. You can move the cursor into the callout with the arrow keys on the keyboard. Or you can hover the mouse pointer over the callout, and when the symbol in the upper right corner is revealed, click on it, left click on it. And then make whatever editing, whatever changes you want in that callout structure. Okay, now let's talk about how we can create custom callouts. As we saw, Obsidian offers 13 built-in callout types: info, tip, warning, note, and so on, each with its own associated color and icon. However, with the help of CSS, it is possible for us to create our own unique custom-designed callouts. In other words, we can create callouts that possess a color and icon other than those offered natively by Obsidian. On screen on the left, you see a list of the callout types that are offered natively by Obsidian. On the right is a unique custom callout type that was created using the CSS snippet that is shown beneath it. Notice that the callout on the right here has a star icon. There is no star icon on any of the built-in callout types in Obsidian. And notice it's like a rich reddish color, and we don't have that either. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up. The body of it also has that kind of red tint, and it's not showing up in the image here. But you can see that the color and the icon are different from any of the standard ones that are offered by Obsidian. And this is the CSS snippet code in order to accomplish this. Within that snippet, the 2 items of interest to us are the callout color and the callout icon. This is a color presented in what's called RGB format. 3 numbers representing a shade of red, green, and blue. And you can find color selectors and apps like that all over the internet. And I have one too if you saw my previous video. But you can get the RGB number for colors from a wide variety of sources on the internet. So if we put in different RGB numbers here, we'll get a different color. We can basically have it to be any color we want. Just look up the RGB for the color you want, put it in the code here, and it will create that color for the callout. Likewise, we can change the icon by using what's called Lucida icons. And I'll demonstrate that as well. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Lucide. So let's take a look at that and see exactly how that's done. Okay, I'm at the CSS snippet constructor, and I'm going to find the one that creates custom callouts. Here it is. That's the code for it. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. And then I'm going to go into my vault, and I'm going to open up Windows Notepad and paste that code into Notepad. I'm going to save this as custom callout .css. I have a video devoted exclusively to how to create and use CSS snippets in Obsidian. It's a pretty big topic in and of its own. I really can't go into the details here, but just to reiterate a very important point, the file extension on all CSS snippets in Obsidian must be CSS. When you create a file with Windows Notepad, it gives it an extension of TXT by default. Before you save that snippet, change that extension to CSS. And I'm in my test vault, the .obsidian subfolder, and the snippets folder within the .obsidian subfolder. And that's where I'm saving my snippet. It's already there because I was practicing this before. So I'm going to say yes. And I go into Settings, Appearance, scroll down to CSS Snippets, find the callout, turn it on. Again, it's already on here. Enable it by turning it on. And now it's in effect. The way we use it is we begin by inserting a normal callout. Now, if I let this render itself, that's how that looks, right? That's how a note type callout looks. Blue with the pencil symbol. But what I want to do to create the custom callout, once I've created the CSS snippet and saved it to the snippets folder and activated it, is I change the type identifier to custom. Now, when I render this callout, it looks very different. It's got this orange-like color, and it's got a star icon. In other words, the callout color that we see, this orange color, is represented in its RGB code as these three numbers. That's the RGB code for the color for this callout, this orange color. And we can change that to any color we want. And the star icon is this Lucida star icon. And again, I'll explain that in a moment. So let's work on the color first. I'm going to a standard color picker. And let's pick a kind of greenish blue color here. That looks nice. The RGB is 105, 205, 222. (105), 205, 222. Now, when I save this snippet, or when I resave this snippet, we should see the color of this callout change to be that bluish greenish color. And there it is. You see the change. Right, the next thing is to change the icon. Now, before I do that and explain how that's done, let me make a point. For some reason, and I don't know why, when we change this icon in the snippet and resave it, it will not affect any existing callouts that we have. However, if I then create a new callout, a new custom callout, it will reflect the change. So in other words, right now, without having changed that, if I insert a callout and I change it from note to custom, I'm going to get the exact same thing. If I change the color now, both of these will reflect a color change. If I change the icon, neither of these will reflect it. But if I create a new callout, it will reflect it. This icon comes from a Lucida website. Let's go there now, and I'll show you exactly what's happening with this. Okay, I'm at the Lucida website, lucide.dev. And as it says, Lucida is an open source icon library that provides 1,000 plus vector files for displaying icons and symbols. And Obsidian uses these icons specifically for its callouts. So up in the menu here, if you click icons, you see all of the icons that they offer, and there's quite a few of them. If you hover over them, the name will appear underneath. That's the name you use in the CSS snippet. So let's pick one. Type a keyword in the search bar at the top, and it'll call up any icons that involve that word. This is the one I'm looking for. No, this is the one I'm looking for. External link. The only thing we're interested here is the name, because it's the name that pops up when you hover over it that you have to use in your CSS snippet. So I don't really need to do anything other than to remember that this is called external-link. So with that information, I can call up my Vault and my CSS snippet, and I'm going to change the icon from Lucida-star to Lucida-external-link. Lucida and the first hyphen have to be in there. And then after that hyphen, you put the name of the icon as it appears at the Lucida website. So when I save this now, we will not see the icon change in these existing custom callouts. But when I create a new one, we'll see it change. So I'll save this. And now let me insert a callout. I'll change the type identifier to custom. And you can see now that the link has changed. Excuse me, you can see now that the icon has changed to that external link icon. This is the symbol that Obsidian uses for external links. If I create a link to a website, add external link, here's a link to the Obsidian Help website, created in Markdown. And as I think you probably know, this is the symbol that Obsidian uses for all of its external links. I've chosen that same symbol from the Lucida website. What I'm going to do now is change the title to Obsidian Help website. I'm going to change the content to that link. So I've picked an icon that represents what this callout is used for. And if I want to, naturally in the content, I could put several links to various pages within the Obsidian Help website. And if I wanted to, rather than have it appear like that, I could put a minus sign right after the closing bracket to make it collapsible. Now it's collapsed. And I can open it by clicking on it and close it. Now you can appreciate the value of collapsing. Let's say I had a whole bunch of links to various pages within the Obsidian Help website. You know, a link where explaining Markdown and a link to the page explaining links and explaining tables and so forth and so on. This could be a pretty large callout, and I could have it collapsed into this nice, simple, small callout, and then someone who's interested can open it up, and there'll be a whole list of links there, and they can use whatever link they want. So to review, to create a custom callout, use this structure, put it in a plain text editor like Windows Notepad, save it to the snippets folder in the .obsidian folder of your Vault. Remember, save it with a CSS file extension. And then you can change the color for the callout to whatever you want it to be using the the correct RGB color code for the color you want, and change the icon to anything that's available on the Lucida website by putting the name of that icon here. Remember, Lucida and the first hyphen must be there, and then whatever name that icon has at the Lucida website in that place. Then save that, and you've created your own custom callout. Okay, what are some possible use cases for callouts? To group or categorize related content within a note, to make important sections of a note stand out, and you can really see how it stands out with the color and the icon. You can use callouts as pop-up help or tip notices. That would best be done in a collapsible state. So you could have instructions on how to do something in a note and have it collapsed. And if the person needs those instructions and wants to see them, they can open up the callout, read them, and then collapse it again. to organize note content visually, to divide a note into collapsible sections, to economize space in a note. Those two kind of go together, right? If you put content, a lot of content in a call out and then have it collapsed, you save a lot of space. As I showed before, if we had a whole bunch of links to various pages in the Obsidian Help site, rather than have all that list of links take up all that space, we can put it in a collapsible call out and leave it with a minus sign so that it's in its collapsed state by default. And then someone sees by the title that it says Obsidian Help website, clicks on it, and it opens up and it has all the links to the various pages of interest in there. And then when they're finished consulting it or using the link, they can collapse it again. Right? We can also use callouts to index a lengthy note using internal links. If you've got a note that's really, really long with many, many, many subsections, you can put at the top of that note links to the various subsections, right? The various headings. Remember, in Obsidian, you can link to headings. So that would serve as a kind of index to that note. And finally, to organize the links in a user-created Vault dashboard. And I'm going to demonstrate that probably in my next video. I'm going to use callouts in a dashboard. Right? There are probably many other uses as well. If you can think of any good ones, please put them in the comments. One particularly useful application of callouts would be as follows. And I'm going to create a link to a PDF document that I have in this vault. And I'm going to embed that document in the note. So I'm going to put an exclamation symbol in front of the brackets. And I've now embedded the PDF in this note. It tells you how to use the ruler, margins, and tabs in Word 2007. It's several pages long. Right, so it takes up quite a bit of space. If instead I put that in a call out, so I'm making it of the tip type. I'm calling it Word 2007 margins. That's the title I'm giving it. And for the content, I'm going to put the embedded link to that PDF. And one other thing, I'm going to make it collapsible by putting a minus sign after the closing bracket. Now, rather than having this big clunky thing in my note, right, this big PDF document, I have it in a collapsible callout. I open the callout, I can access the entire document. And when I'm done, I close it up. It looks nicer. It economizes the use of space in the note. Easily accessible. Just a really, really handy use for callouts, I think. If you have PDF documents in your notes, just embed it in the callout, as I've done here. A link to the document with the exclamation sign in front of it to embed it. Give it whatever title you want, use whatever type you want, and make it collapsible by putting the minus sign after the closing bracket. Really great use case for callouts. So there you have it, working with callouts in Obsidian. Callouts are one of Obsidian's most versatile features. They are visually appealing and have broad practical utility. They are certainly a favorite of mine, second only to tables. In my next video, I'll cover an interesting and useful application of callouts. Okay, fellow Obsidizens, that's all I have for now. I'll see you in the next video. Happy note-taking.